Hey there, it's Kurt Curtis coming at you from the Full Octane Garage, and today we're going to talk about garage gear, and this is an episode that we're going to start doing about tools and things that you might be able to use in your garage. A while back, a friend of mine loaned me a pneumatic brake bleeding system. It was called a Mighty Vac. It was actually a very commercial grade unit. Unit probably cost $150, $200, and for the little bit that I bleed brakes, I was like, do I really want to spend $250 or even $200 on a unit that I'll use a couple of times? So I went to our friends at Harbor Freight and found a Pittsburgh pneumatic brake bleeding system. I believe it was about $39. If you get one of the 25% off coupons, you can get it much cheaper. So this is the first time I'm going to open this thing and see what it's all about. Now, I've heard some mixed reviews about this particular device. This is a device with some connectors here, and what these connectors are made to do is to keep your brake reservoir filled up. So you would fill this with brake fluid. You would have a toggle on and off connector here. And then you screw these little devices on, and these little devices would sit in your brake master cylinder. You turn the unit on, and it will keep your brake master unit topped off. It's magic, trust me. The problem is that most cars have their brake reservoir pushed back into the firewall a little bit, and this device has to kind of sit at an angle, and it doesn't work very well. So, and the way it had the same problem with the Mighty Vac, by the way. So. This works on some applications, it doesn't work on all. For us, we will probably not even talk about this because we won't be using it. Now, the Mighty Vac comes with this nice little canister. This is where the used brake fluid will reside. This is going to drop into the reservoir. It has an outlet where it's going to blow the air out, and a device here where you engage the air. So what happens with this is it has the flexible hose, has what looks to be a universal connector to actually connect to the brake bleeding unit. So the brake bleeder, you'll throw your wrench on it, you'll pop this on it, get that thing a little bit loose, loosen it up, and then when you engage, you hook this to your air compressor, and when you engage this, air will start to flow through here and develop a suction on this tube, and the suction will bleed your brakes, and you should be able to see air bubbles traveling down your line. Once you see clear fluid, your brakes should be bled. The one thing you have to be very careful of is while you're bleeding the brakes, you want to make sure that your reservoir doesn't go empty, because you'll have to start all over again. Traditionally, you start from the right rear, right front, left front, and that will give you a proper bleed. Now, I will say something negative about this compared to the Mighty Vac. The Mighty Vac came with some different attachments that would go on this hose end, and the different attachments were really, really cool. So I'm going to have to make some different attachments for myself, because when you're taking a brake system apart, you want to get the reservoir empty, or a power steering pump. You want to empty the power steering pump, or you want to drain the oil in your car, as an example. Mighty Vac does have a bigger container on it, and it does have some different attachments that you can drop down into a tank, whether it be your power steering reservoir, and you could engage it. You could actually drain the fluid out of your power steering reservoir, so when you disconnect the lines, you actually have less of a mess. So I'm going to have a future episode on how to make connectors for this. This is, again, brake bleeding, one-man brake bleeding on the cheap, and we want to give you all the options to do things on a budget. Not everybody has the $150 to do a commercial setup, but I'll tell you, once you get one of these, all your friends are going to want to borrow it, because I borrowed my friend's Mighty Vac several times. I just think I'm wearing my welcome out, and it was worth $39 to go get my own device. So we're going to as the next step, we're going to go over, we've got the 1950 Chevrolet truck project. I had to do some brake line revamping on it, so I now need to bleed the brakes. I'll use this on future cars too. I've got 3 or 4 projects behind this one that I'll use it on, and we'll do a video on how well it works. And after this, it'll be actually part of this episode, and we'll give it a rating at the end. It'll be a full octane garage gear rating. We're going to have a rating system we're going to develop for our garage gear, and let you know whether it's worth buying or not. So stay with us, and we'll be right back at you to do a little bit of brake bleeding. Okay, we're now at the right front tire, and we're going to take the rubber dust cap off. We're going to put a 10mm wrench on and go ahead and loosen it up, the brake bleeder. Now, the one thing I will say that I'm finding about this particular setup is once the air hose is attached to the brake bleeding system, it does not like to stand up on its own very well. So we're struggling a little bit with finding a position where it doesn't fall over. So we're going to put the bleeder valve on. And we're going to engage the air and loosen the valve and let some fluid start flowing. And we have fluid flowing. You can see a bunch of air coming through the hose. We'll get that air worked out. And you want to tighten the valve before you turn the air off so that any air doesn't get back into the unit. I'm going to go up and check the level in the reservoir and make sure I'm not running low. Okay, we're going to hit this one more time. Okay, as you can see, we've gotten a fair amount of fluid through here, so I suspect that it's mostly fluid coming out now. It's really challenging to tell, and I had the same problem with the Mighty Vac to whether I could tell if it had air or not. It seems to suck a little bit of air around the valve, so it's really challenging to tell. So you're just going to have to feel the brake pedal and run enough fluid through it to make sure that you really got it out. So now what we'll do is suck this out. But as you can see, it does a nice job in a very short period of time. We got a good amount of fluid in here. So I think this, from a feasibility standpoint, for $39, I think we got a winner. Okay, we're back from bleeding the brakes in the 1950 truck. The whole process with this device, which was awesome, only took 15 minutes tops, and that was with me having to check the brake fluid level periodically. It was an extremely easy system to use. I would highly recommend this for a small garage that's not maybe a commercial facility, doesn't need something larger with a larger reservoir. If you're willing to empty stuff out periodically, I bled all 4 brakes without having to empty this one time. It was a little clunky with the air hose connected to it, trying to make sure that it stands up straight. Because if you don't have it standing up straight and it's running and you turn it sideways, it will start pushing the fluid out of the air nozzle. So you got to be very careful with that. This is an item, looks like a 92924, and from Harbor Freight. I will say that it probably had equal, if not a little bit better suction than the Mighty Vac. I noticed that the Mighty Vac was lacking a little bit of suction. When you'd put your finger over the hose, it wouldn't suck it in very well. with this one, when you actually hit the nozzle end, you can feel it pulling your finger into the nozzle. So I would highly recommend this as garage gear. I would say it's a 10 out of, I'll give it an 8 out of 10 just because of it not wanting to stand up very well. The Mighty Vac, there was always no question whether it would stand up properly. So again, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was informative. We're going to have more garage gear coming at you. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to us. Give us feedback. Also, if you've purchased this product and used it in the long haul, give us a long-term review below and tell us what your thoughts of it are. I'm sure we didn't capture everything, but we captured enough to get you started on this. So thanks for being with us. We appreciate you being there, and we'll be back at you soon with some more informative videos. Okay, we're back from bleeding the brakes. The whole